Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a total paradox, why making more money doesn't actually mean having more money. You'd think being broke is just a low-income problem, right? Well, not exactly. Our source material today reveals that very often the real problem is entirely invisible. It is not about the size of your paycheck, but those tiny, easily ignored habits that are quietly draining your wealth.
So, let's jump straight into Section 1, the invisible financial leak. We're going to start with a pretty powerful metaphor about two identical boats leaving a harbor. Picture this, two massive, powerful boats. They've got top-of-the-line engines, full tanks of gas, and they are headed to the exact same spot. But there's a catch. One of these boats has a tiny, almost microscopic hole right beneath the waterline. At first, nobody notices a thing. The leak is so incredibly small it seems completely harmless, and for hours, the boat just keeps cruising forward. But slowly, water starts creeping into the cabin. Fast forward a bit, and the engine starts sputtering, the boat slows to a crawl, and finally, it just dies. It's a brutal reality check, honestly. It literally does not matter how massive your engine is if you are slowly sinking. Or think of it like a bathtub. Imagine you've got the faucet cranked up to full blast, but the drain? It's wide open. No matter how much water is aggressively pouring into that tub, it is never, ever going to fill up. Well, money works the exact same way. We get absolutely fixated on the faucet, grinding for a raise, picking up a side hustle, but we completely ignore the open drain. Because the hidden reason people stay broke usually isn't some massive, catastrophic expense. It's hundreds of tiny, sneaky ones that look totally innocent on their own, but combine into an unstoppable drain on your wallet.
Moving on to Section 2, Kevin versus Omar. Let's see what this actually looks like out in the wild by looking at our two case study subjects.
Meet Kevin and Omar. They are your perfectly average 31-year-olds. They work at the exact same company, take home basically the same paycheck, and both have this dream of eventually buying a house. But man, their paydays could not look more different. When Kevin's direct deposit hits, he feels rich. Well, for like 3 days anyway. Then the money just kind of evaporates. We're talking food delivery, impulse online shopping, weekend drinks, a bunch of streaming subscriptions, the daily coffee run. By the end of the month, he is anxiously counting down the days until his next check. Now, Omar? He lives a super similar lifestyle, but with one game-changing difference. Before he spends a single dime on his current self, he pays his future self first.
Which brings us to Section 3, the lifestyle inflation trap. Things get really interesting when we look at what happens when their incomes actually go up.
Let's track this timeline. A year goes by and boom, Kevin gets a promotion. A 20% bump in his salary. He is absolutely pumped. So, what's his first move? Instantly upgrades his phone. Then he decides he deserves a slightly nicer, more expensive apartment. He starts eating out a bit more often. And the grand finale? He finances a shiny new car. Fast forward just a few months, and if you peek at his bank account, it looks absolutely identical to how it looked before the promotion. Sure, more money is coming in, but way more money is going out, leaving him at a net zero.
This, my friends, is the textbook definition of lifestyle inflation. It's this sneaky, invisible phenomenon where your expenses quietly creep up right alongside your income. The source material uses a great analogy here. It's exactly like running on a treadmill. You are working harder, you're sweating more, you're burning way more energy, but you are standing in the exact same place. It turns out financial progress isn't determined just by what you make, it's determined entirely by what you keep.
So where's all this extra spending actually coming from? Well, picture Kevin after a really brutal, stressful day at work. Instead of just chilling out, he opens an app and impulse buys a pair of high-end headphones. Not because he needs them, his old ones work just fine, but because hitting buy just feels good in the moment. This is a massive psychological leak happening right under our noses. A lot of our daily spending doesn't solve practical problems, it solves emotional ones. Stress, boredom, loneliness, frustration. We buy a product to fix a feeling, but that negative feeling, it almost always comes right back a few days later.
All right, Section 4, the power of automation. Let's flip back to Omar and see how he deals with those exact same everyday temptations.
This is where Omar's real secret lies. Listen, Omar isn't just naturally better with money. He doesn't possess some crazy superhuman willpower that Kevin is lacking. He just makes fewer choices. The very second his paycheck hits his account, his savings transfer automatically. His investments? Automatic. Bills? Paid automatically. By putting his entire financial life on autopilot with these invisible systems, he completely removes the daily choices. And by removing the choices, he removes the temptation. He's not relying on motivation at all. He's relying on systems.
The text actually uses a really vivid metaphor that totally nails this mindset. Imagine you're handed a bag of seeds every single month. Kevin takes his bag and eagerly eats every single seed that same day. Omar, though, he takes a handful of his seeds and plants them in the ground. At first glance, you wouldn't notice a difference between the two guys. But give it a few months, and Omar's got little sprouts popping up. A few years later, Kevin is still standing there with empty hands, desperate for his next bag of seeds. But Omar is sitting in the shade of a massive orchard. The point is, every dollar you earn is a seed. It can disappear today, or you can plant it to build a seriously bright tomorrow.
That takes us to Section 5, Surviving Financial Emergencies. Because look, life doesn't just stick to a spreadsheet, and eventually it throws a curveball at both of them.
Out of nowhere, both Kevin and Omar get hit with massive, unexpected car repairs. And their reactions to the exact same problem are completely night and day. Kevin panics and immediately swipes his credit card, taking on a ton of high-interest debt that's going to haunt him for months. Omar? He just calmly taps into his fully funded emergency account. The mechanic charges him both the exact same amount, but the financial fallout is completely different.
Here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Having savings doesn't magically prevent emergencies from happening to you. Cars break down, roofs leak, stuff happens, but savings do prevent those emergencies from snowballing into full-blown financial disasters. Omar's preparation basically put a force field around him, totally insulating him from the exact same crisis that sent Kevin spiraling into debt.
All right, let's bring it all home with Section 6, plugging your hidden leaks. Let's fast forward 10 years and figure out how to patch our own financial drains.
So, after a decade of watching Omar just pull further and further ahead, Kevin finally caves and asks him how he pulled it off, especially since they've always made the exact same amount of money. Omar's answer is brilliantly simple. He looks at him and says, "I didn't find a secret investment, I didn't win the lottery, I simply stopped letting small leaks control my future." It finally clicks for Kevin. Building wealth isn't about making one flashy cinematic move. It is about thousands of ordinary, kind of boring, everyday decisions.
Now, I want to pause here because the source material brings up a really important, impartial point about external realities. We can't ignore the heavy stuff. Low income, sudden health scares, family obligations, just generally brutal economic conditions. These are real systemic hurdles that make saving genuinely difficult. This explainer is definitely not ignoring that, and if you're dealing with those, your struggles are absolutely valid. But since we can't always control the macroeconomic environment or random life events, our best bet is to pivot our focus back to the hidden, internal habits that we actually do have control over.
Which brings us to the good news. Here is the concrete playbook that anyone can start using literally today. Number 1, pay yourself first. Number 2, automate those savings so your brain doesn't even have to get involved. 3, build an emergency fund so you're insulated from disaster. 4, invest consistently. Start planting that orchard. And 5, question those emotional purchases. Stop and ask yourself, am I actually buying a product right now, or am I just buying a temporary feeling? You do not need to be perfect with money. You just need to make sure your good habits are slightly stronger than your bad ones.
I want you to keep one specific number in mind, 1%. Imagine if you improved your financial habits by just 1% every single day. Look, you wouldn't notice a difference next week, probably not even next month, but years down the line, the compounding effect is absolutely staggering. Saving a tiny bit, learning a tiny bit, spending just a fraction more intentionally, these things feel totally insignificant in the moment, but stack them up and they quietly and powerfully rewrite your entire future.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to wrap up today's explainer. I really want you to take a hard look at your own daily routines right now. What is the smallest, most invisible leak draining your financial future today? Is it those sneaky convenience fees? Is it stress shopping online at midnight? Is it a lack of automation? Find that leak, patch it up, and just watch how much faster your boat finally starts moving toward where you actually want to be. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.